Artists are self-obsessed, fixated with big questions and our need to understand self. It is from this obsession that art is produced, art being the overflow from our own explorations. And it was during my exploration that I found myself to be an artist. I like to reimagine what already exists, what has already been made and tossed into the universe, taking fractured pieces and creating form out of disjointedness. My voice as an artist reestablishes a fragmented whole, earnest to express stories that connect with human hearts. When I look at all of us, I see myself more clearly. And to me, that is the purpose of creating, to prompt someone to ask, how clearly do they see themselves? And in our journey to try to find understanding, we pave a road for others looking to do the same. But how do we begin that journey? Ever since I was young, writing has been the only consistent way forward through the mess of being. I've never been a journaler per se, but I often unleash a ferocious stream of consciousness to paper. Sometimes I shrink back from my own brutally honest voice, and yet the strength found there has carried me through every season. Concepts, storytelling, and narrative, all trains of thought that I used as a child, grasping at feelings, have developed into highways for communicating heavy questions that we all ask or avoid asking about being human. Yet these tools had to evolve through their own journey into a very real world outside of my personal universe. After high school, I moved away from York, where I'd lived all my life, to Illinois for a few years. And there I learned a different translation of communication. Outward projections formed from inward reflections. On some stages, that was performance arts, like spoken word or singing, but other seasons were more hands-on and tactile, like large-scale events and stage production and environmental design. With these new discoveries and real-life practice, a dormant side of my creativity came to life, demanding a hesitant reevaluation for the future. Should I go to college and pursue communications? I have no savings, no grants, no nothing, but it feels like a necessity. So staring down the challenge, I looked at what already existed and reimagined something out of nothing. I saw plants and vintage, and I took these seemingly unconnected things and wrote into them an identity, Older and Wiser Co. The story translated to sales, but I noticed along the way that there was a magnetism to wild, extravagant beauty, and it appealed to everyone, not just to me. Thus, I was determined even more to drive sales through imaginative visuals and enrapturing mystery. Very quickly, I also realized that other locals wanted the same thing. Artists, artisans, small business owners all saw the value in artful marketing and asked to be in these photo shoots as well, which gave me access to resources that turned my concepts into over-the-top productions. With all this momentum, I envisioned a network that could expand into an online market where creatives could sell their work in partnership with Older and Wiser. But at that time, there were too many ideas to settle down, and I was addicted to the thrill of taking risks. So I dropped out of college, and I let myself wonder if this path could be the next right thing. And I put myself next to people who believed in that too. This became my try anything season. I did pop-ups and shops, I printed a magazine, I opened my first studio and began branding other businesses, and I even experimented with my own events. Essentially, if I got an opportunity, I said yes, and I pushed past fear and limitations to incorporate what they offered, leading to a more diverse perspective and technique in my design network. Little by little, I learned to connect the dots faster. I started to understand a part of myself that I always knew, but was never seen by anyone else. The inner voice was now an outward visual, and that's what I loved the most. Other people could finally see. Everyone, not just me, has this desire to be known, and this was our knowing, starting to recognize threads of ourselves woven within the creative work, until really, the fixation wasn't just buying and selling. It was creating and connecting through story. Recognition of identity will change everything for a person. And when I allowed myself to explore new aspects, I learned what's important to me and what's not. I learned why I create, to see for myself a hopeful, resilient, constantly evolving light in the midst of darkness. And through this exploration, I could express that it was found in all of us. Eventually, I was the one to call myself an artist, and that's when I believed it. I decided why I deserved that title. I defined the philosophy and the technique and language around it, and in doing so, I received what I had been waiting for, the permission to start. And now, I'm obsessed with what I do. No more plants or vintage or college tuition, but rather a branding company focused on narrative imagery and visual storytelling. I'm a creative director, and I build teams that execute vision. For me, for clients, collaborative art productions, and I've also initiated programming that offers individuals an opportunity to discover their own inner artist through hands-on experience, classes, and community-driven events in partnership with creative professionals. I lived most of my life thinking that I wasn't creative, but identity was never about what I could do. It was about who I always was. All of us, including you, are capable of being an artist, and I hope you consider that possibility of creating expression from your exploration and gifting someone else the question of who am I and who are we together.